Welcome to Mr. Tonsoni's podcast on equilibrium with supply and demand. Up here on the notes, we are going to take the information that we've learned about demand schedules and curves and supply schedules and curves and finally put them together to determine pricing. We are looking for information on where price and quantity are the same on a demand schedule as they are on a supply schedule. That is the point where two curves would meet, or on the bottom right we have circled at $4 and $400. Supply and demand have the same price and quantity. That is called the point of equilibrium. Equilibrium is where the market best works. It is the price that businesses probably should select and the exact quantity that they could produce and would be demanded. When we look for price and quantity, we need to put together information and find equilibrium. Okay, we write equilibrium, price, quantity. So in our situation here, it would be 4-400, comma, would be fine as well. But the market at work. Not all pricing is set at equilibrium. We will discuss that at later times. You can again do this in two ways. Drawing curves, that's one way. This would be an example of drawing curves, finding the equilibrium, going over, finding the price, finding the quantity. We need to make sure we draw things to scale. A lot of times hand-drawn curves will result in wrong information, so we need to be really particular when we draw curves to find equilibrium. One of the best ways to find equilibrium is to draw demand schedule and a supply schedule right next to each other. We know the prices are going to be the same. Now we're looking here, 600 is not equal 200, 500 does not equal 300, 400, 400. The answer is 4 and 400. That is called the price of equilibrium. We are going to spend a lot of time, 40% of our exam is in using a variety of information to find equilibriums. We will be comparing two demand schedules and two supply schedules at all times to find 8 different points of equilibrium. Once we find that, we are going to set the price, and we can calculate now profit. Okay, for our example, the equilibrium was 4 and 400. If the cost of doing business was $1.50, we can analyze what would our profit be. The basic economic formula is listed there. In the middle, revenues minus expenses equal profit. I've listed 2 ways to calculate this, A being the long way, B being the short way, whichever way works best for you. Total revenue is price times quantity. We've been putting together a total revenue chart, so that would be 4 times 400 equals 1,600. And then we need to calculate the expense. We know the cost of doing one is 150. 150 times 400 is 600. And then we're going to subtract 600 from 1,600 to get a profit of 1,000. Revenues minus expenses equal profit. B is a shortcut. You take the equilibrium price, that's the price we're going to select based on equilibrium. You're going to subtract out the cost, and then you're going to multiply times 400. We are going to see that we make $2.50 every time we produce and sell a widget. Therefore, 2.5 times 400 is 1,000. 2 different ways of calculating revenue, or profit, excuse me. We use revenue to calculate profit. There are a couple of times when you will see prices set above equilibrium, and what happens then, sometimes the government will set these, prices can't drop or prices can't go above. The example on the top is a price floor. Prices cannot go below $5 in that example. Example would be minimum wage. There are some positives and negatives with setting price floors, but what you have here is you have a willingness to produce more, but a lower demand. So in this situation where price is greater than equilibrium, you have a surplus. You have more product than is demanded. With the minimum wage, you'll have more people wanting to work at a minimum wage than businesses wanting to hire. It's an example of a price floor by government. We also should add the term surplus. And you will just have to analyze your business to make that decision. You might also see this on an exam. And then also down below, if price is below equilibrium, you have a price ceiling set by government. Sometimes that prices can't get up to equilibrium. Example is government housing. If you get some help from the government to create government housing, you have to charge a rent that is feasible for lower income people. You can't necessarily charge what the market would allow you to charge, so it does not go above that. And what you have here is a shortage. You have high demand but low production. Supply is less than demand, so you have a shortage. So price ceiling and shortage, price floor, and surpluses are two things that occur when pricing does not happen at equilibrium. Main points for today: we've been setting up our study of independent businesses by looking at demand and supply. Today we start putting that information together. The appropriate price is always going to be at equilibrium, where the market is at work and best. It is, or 2 points, a point on the demand and supply curve are the same, or sometimes the easiest way is when we draw demand schedules and supply schedules, finding where they meet. If you're asked in your business project to find what price you should select, you should try to find equilibrium. On exams or homework, if it's what quantity should we expect to sell, that would be the optimal quantity demanded at a point of equilibrium. So understanding equilibrium is very, very important. Thank you. Here ends the Equilibrium Podcast.